homes on cul-de-sacs, you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show with Stan DeFreitas, the dad, and James DeFreitas, the son. For the next hour, call in with your questions in gardening, growing your favorite veggies, and growing your profits in real estate. Locally, call 813-289-1860. Toll free 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And I am James DeFreitas, and Stan is still fiddling with
my headphones, as I do each and every week.
As a seasoned professional that he is.
Only 40 years in the business, never mind that I have problems with headphones.
That's exactly right. So today we have Kelly in the studio with us today from Stafford Tree Service. And you guys have been in the business how long?
17 years.
Wow, 17 years, okay. And so you really, and again, your coverage area typically is in the greater Tampa Bay area, or do you typically, because I know a lot of the tree service companies that I have talked to over the years, they start to find like their little niche areas, like, I do in the St. Petersburg area, but I don't really go out of that area. Do you guys kind of go all over, or?
We do. We do all of Pinellas County, but we mainly focus on like northern Pinellas County and some of Tampa too.
Some of Tampa too. Okay, well that's cool. Yeah, because the main thing that I find is, some of the competing services that they will find like a wealthy section of town, and then they'll just kind of focus in on that area. And to me, it's when you're doing a radio show in the greater Tampa Bay area, you start recommending a tree service, and then they call, and it's like, we don't really go in that direction. We go over here, but not there.
Well, I recommended Kelly and Stafford Tree Service in Tampa because I had a client who'd called me and they had some borers, had some problems, and I went over and I injected the trees with borers with some material to kind of give them their last supper. And by the way, borers, oak trees get borers, and especially laurels and waters. Lives not as much, but they can.
Is this a beetle that you're talking about?
John Paul, Ringo and the boys. Without Epi, we can't make rock and roll like we used to.
That was
those you knew my trigger that I love to get my Beatles imitation in.
To get that Beatles imitation in there.
Which is one of the ones I love to do, because without Epi, you can't do it anymore. But, Liverpoolians. But the beetles that get into your trees kill your tree. And if I can inject the tree, or sometimes I'll spray the tree too, it depends on the situation. Sometimes I can just inject and that's enough. I usually put nutrients into the tree too, because getting a tree healthy is half the battle. And I'm one of the few that work that way. But I'm a certified arborist that doesn't carry a chainsaw. So I said, the folks said, well, we'd like somebody who you'd recommend. And I said, how about Stafford Tree Service? And Kelly came over here, and the husband and wife, I know they're fans of the show. And he called me up afterwards and said, they cleaned up. They did such a wonderful job, such a great job. Thank you for, there's very few times people call you back and thank you for recommending someone. But he did, and I thought, wow, that's another, you can't buy that kind of advertisement. And, you could, I guess. But this was genuine, good folks in Tampa. You did a wonderful job. They loved it. They were happy. And I like that. I'm the old school. When people call you back and say, gosh, they did everything they said they'd do, that's just, warms the cockles of your heart.
Yeah, I think it's important, word of mouth and, getting people to, get your name out there. And I think we really thrive from that. And so. They do. And definitely. So, we used to work some with Utsi Tree Service. We still have him up there on the board. But Utsi we love Carl, but Carl pretty much works South St. Pete and maybe a little bit to Northeast St. Pete on occasion. But he doesn't.
Yeah, he's got a real niche.
He doesn't send his stuff across
location. You know. So he seems to be very tight into what he does in those areas. So that's one of the reasons. It sounds like you guys are much further north, or a little bit further north, and you guys go into a broader area. So that that might make you guys useful in areas where they wouldn't necessarily go. So we can still recommend both.
Yeah.
So, but one of the things I was going to ask you, and again, it's one of these situations where I think a lot of people, in the tree business, just like any other business, politics does play a role. And one of the thoughts that I think a lot of people have is they just automatically assume that every tree trimming company just comes in and wants to make everything a desert and cut everything down. And that's probably not the case, right? I mean, you guys are going in there and looking at every tree and determining which trees can be trimmed and which trees should come down for the safety purposes.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, we never want to take a tree down that, doesn't necessarily have any issues or posing a threat to a property or.
Sure.
Yeah, so we definitely want to preserve it adds value to your property.
Right. Yeah, and so you guys are taking a pretty surgical approach too when you see stuff. You look at the trees and you look at the overall health of the tree, and before you guys make any big decisions on taking them down. And I think that's something that is understated. I don't think people understand that tree companies are not out there to just to not be good stewards to the earth. They're out there to try to, yes, they are out to make money, but they're also trying to do it in an ethical and sustainable way. So I think that's an important distinction that gets overlooked. People hear a chainsaw noise and they just automatically assume, well, they want to cut every tree down, and I know that's not the case.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's important to bring that up.
I think that is too. Yeah, I had a story of a guy I know. His name is, we'll just say John. And John was in the business for a while as in a arborist, sort of. Well, he wasn't really certified. He had like a truck or a station wagon, and he was going into business.
I know who this is.
Got a chainsaw. Actually went into the medical field, kind of.
That's a smart guy.
And he actually is pretty smart. But it was one of his first things. He really hadn't gotten trained. He worked with somebody else where he helped somebody else do some trimming. And all of a sudden, I've had the chainsaw in my hand for 45 minutes, and now I'm a master chainsaw arborist. Went up to the job, dropped this tree, dropped it on the house.
Ooh.
And then he ran for his station wagon and never to be seen again in the arborist business. Now, the guy was smart enough. He went back to school. He's really a smart guy. You wouldn't know that from the story
right.
On that. And we won't say anything more. I'll say I don't know his last name. If anybody's out there, there's probably some attorney going, I think there was a case here. We're still looking for this guy. But it's a good example of sometimes cheapest isn't always best. I think he gave him one heck of a great price.
Right.
But until it hit the back into the house and tore a big hole, only 4 or 5 or 6 feet in the roof. And but if they wanted a skylight, he's already prepared it for them. So let's look at the bright side of things. Everybody's a negative Nelly these days, and so there's a positive side.
That's right. Yeah, so, you gotta go the extra mile to find the positive in that situation.
So
but, yeah.
So you guys are licensed. You're insured. You have all the things that you need to have and should have, and yet there are guys out there who do the job who don't have any insurance. They the guy's working out of his and I see it all the time. Guys, have a station wagon thing, and the guy goes, "Well, I used to do a lot of trees back in wherever," and you're going, "Well, okay." And
right, and I would think those kind of guys actually hurt your overall cause.
They hurt everybody.
Because now you're having to counteract this mentality of the fly-by-night guys that want to come in and trim trees. And then ruin kind of the professional nature of what you're trying to do, right?
But those guys come in and go, hey, after the 6th beer, that's when I really start to decide where I'm going to put the chainsaw and the blade, and everything's going to be good, And the guy goes, and then I smoke like 2 or 3 bowls, man. And
it's sounding like Cheech and Chong does tree service.
I'm doing my Cheeks and Chong tree service. Hey, but we do it cheaper. Hey, well, man. So yeah. I'm just making big jokes, but I think people will remember that because, hey, that Greenthumb guy's kind of funny. And I had these stories in when I used to do some of my stuff for like home shows and stuff, just because, I could sit there and go, now we're going to talk about the Phalaenopsis. And I lose about 90% of our audience because they're going to go, oh, he's one of those elitist types that's only going to talk about the Latin name of the plants. And I can talk about the Latin names for all the plants, but, I'm not doing that to try to show you that what do I prove by doing that?
Right.
Anyway, make it fun.
That you're a professor type. That's what that proves. Yeah.
I guess. Yeah. I used to teach horticulture, so yeah, I can. And students hated it too. I said, "I want to make you learn the Latin, And they'll go, oh, God, we'll never learn the Latin. I said, yeah, you will. I'd see them out somewhere sometime in a parking lot going, hey, Live Oak, Quercus virginiana, Laurel Oak, Quercus dolifolia, Water Oak, Quercus nigra. And so they did remember, red maple, Acer rubrum. They would remember because I made them remember. I bring in stuff, leaves and stuff, and say, it's just, we're going to raise your level that you are better than, the guy with the drops the tree on the
Right.
house and runs.
Right, and I do think that having some of that terminology is good because it adds to the professional nature of what you guys do, and and that's the other thing. I mean, that I can't stress enough is that making sure that when you are going to take on a big job, you don't want a fly-by-night company. You do want to hire a professional company like Stafford. You do want to make sure that they come out there, do an assessment. And so tell me how this process works. When somebody calls you, what is the typical process from the start to the finish?
Well, normally I'll try to line up my estimates for my guy, my brother. He works with me, and he's the guy that comes out and.
Oh, cool. So
takes
this
a
is
look at-
truly a family
Right.
business.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So try to keep it, when we're in the area, and so he'll go out and assess the trees, and
Okay.
we send over the proposals to your email and.
Sure.
And get you on the schedule.
Nice.
and-
So
yeah.
now if I'm an older person and you say email, I don't do the email. If I am older and I don't, because I find even in real estate, I find that there are people that are really good at technology, and then there are some that are not. And so what I typically do is I just default to whatever their communication preference is.
Right.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, I would say probably about 95% of people, they just.
They're good to
Yep.
go on the email
Yeah.
front. Well, that's great. I wish that was the case for real estate. 'Cause that,
Well, even most of the oldsters can do email. I mean,
yeah.
And
Well-
I can
well,
put myself into that category. This is oldsters. I like email.
Sure. I
I
mean,
like text.
Sure. I find most people can read them, but then the whole respond back to them thing, that's the challenging part,
Getting somebody to sign something.
Yeah, I find that they, getting them to respond in a reasonable amount of time, and that music means we got to go pay some bills here. It
Let's
sounds
say
like
813-289-1860 will put you on the air with us locally, and we of course want to hear from you. We'll be talking more with Kelly Stafford of Stafford Tree Service right here on the Ask Mr. Greenthumb Gardening and Real Estate Show.
Want to talk real estate auctions? Call James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127 or go online at aflre.com. Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Connect online at askmrgreenthumb.com. Got questions on gardening, real estate, or both? Call now. 813-289-1860. Toll free, 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And we're here, of course, to answer your questions. We are lucky to have Kelly Stafford of Stafford's Tree Service with us here. And if you've got a question about maybe I've got this tree and it's dangling like a participle over my lanai, and should I worry about that? And of course, the answer is yes. But you might want to call and get stuff done now, because a lot of times people will go, well, I know it's the Christmas season. I want to save $1 and this and that. Well, I understand. But what other peace of mind can you have the next time we have a hurricane, not having it come down? And it always kills me. Oh, I'll just call the tree service like a day before the hurricane's going to hit. And Kelly goes, well, I've got 25 other people who've called that want me to try to get to an emergency situation, I assume. But we can go back to that a little bit, too.
Yeah. So one of the questions I asked you before the last break is that, your process on, I think the last thing you were saying is that, you'll get an email from you in regards to, a quote. And so again, so they call you up, and again, to get a hold of you again, the telephone number to get a hold of you guys, is that how you prefer people to contact you, or go through the website?
Yeah, I think phone's always good. I mean, the website too. We do get emails from our website, but
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that number would be
It's 727-546-8786.
okay, and then say it again for us, because
Seven-
there are some people out there that will be going, "Oh, I got half the number."
right.
727-546-8786. 8786.
Great.
All right, and we'll give that number out again, too, later.
Yeah, we will.
So you who have get your pen and paper ready, because I had a guy last week call me Sebastian off the air, and he couldn't get my phone number. He says, you guys give it off way too quick.
Yeah.
And, of course, he's 88 years old, nice guy, couldn't get through. And I understood, that
Sure.
he wanted Earthbox. He wanted to know, he said, would they ship stuff to him? He says, I could drive down there. And I go, at 88, I think you'd be better off to have it shipped to you than you drive. And I could see him down there going,
Sure.
oh, lovey, there's someone in front of me.
Well, and plus with with COVID being, I mean, he's in a real target range of age group. I mean, I think if anything, when you get to that 75 and up crowd, they if they can minimize being out and about, I think they. I mean, I know that if I were of that age group, I would try to minimize the amount of contact points
Sure.
I was having.
I
But,
mean, I don't mind driving at my tender age, but I know a lot of folks.
well, at your age, I don't know.
Hey, you get to a point where they go, hey, that US 19, don't like that US 19, don't like that Belcher. Yeah, that doesn't bother me, but you're always, every time you're on the road, there's always some other idiot that can go. We had somebody today come by us beeping their horn and stuff, and they were zooming through traffic, and we thought, I said, they must be late for the airport.
No.
No, we called them up here at the light right by here.
Right.
And of course, we waved at them and beeped at them, and, but...
We were nice though.
Yeah.
Not the way they were. I just waved and waved it off and said howdy. So, but that's my personality. I never get too upset about anything. So, but so anyway, back to the tree business. Yep. So they get your email, they get the quote, and then is it money all up front? Do they pay after the job's done? How does that work?
We never take any money up front. We always, once the job's done and
that makes sense.
Yeah. I think it's better to do business that way.
Yeah, because I seem to remember having a grandparent at one time tell me, well, the guy said he needed $500 right now, and he's coming back. He says he's gonna. Well, Grandma, did he come back? No, he never came back, but yeah, I still think he's gonna. Well, how long ago was that? Oh, that was 3 months ago, but I think he still will.
Yeah, so
I've had a lot of people call me and tell me that they've paid half up front, and the guy said he'd be back the next day and didn't
right.
come back, and
he's one of those guys out there getting the 6 beers and the 2 bongs, going, hey, I'm gonna get you the job tomorrow, man.
Right. and by the way, and I just put this out there as a PSA disclaimer, if the tree trimming company you hire also sells water softeners, that's not a good sign.
What about if the dude abides?
Yeah, I'm just well, yeah, especially if it's the Credence tapes. If they have those, then you're good.
Are we going to get those tapes back?
We got them working in shifts, man. But it's not a good sign if they're trying to upsell you on something else, and it's never a good sign if they're trying to take money from you in advance. So, I mean, that's one of the things that it's important, And the other thing too, you guys have a website, that they can go to. Now, is that just StaffordTreeService.com, or how do they get to that?
It's StaffordTreeSVC.com.
SVC.com. Yeah. Okay, now that's important distinction. So they go to the website. That adds credibility too, because you can go by. I'm sure on the website they can go and look to see previous jobs that you guys have done, testimonials as to other people that have already used your services and are happy. And then they can also do a Google search, and they can probably see the reviews and stuff that way, so that people can, nowadays there really is no reason, if you do your research in advance, not to have a good feeling about the company that you're choosing. And I think that, and again, I hate to put that age barrier in there, but I will say, I'm constantly suggesting to people that when they're trying to either get satisfaction from a company, that if you're not having any luck reaching out to them, the other thing that I have found is if you hop on the company Facebook page and you type in, hey, having trouble getting some service on something, I am amazed at how these corporate entities, they will get back to you pretty quickly. Now, your comment may not stay on their page very long,
right.
But they do seem to get back to you. And, that's been another resource for us, too. And I imagine the same in your business, is that, Facebook and the social media and all of that is just another way to have testimonials about what you do, and another way to get customer feedback.
Right. The Facebook, I'm still working on. I'm not the most tech savvy person.
Sure.
So Yeah, I probably need to work on, my
Well-
presence there on Facebook.
Well, and I say that, and I must have 5 or 6 shows of that we've done of this show that I need to edit up. But all I can say is a lot's been cooking in the last couple of months, and I will get back on it. So
The manana complex.
Yeah, I will
Well,
get
it's
back
easy
to it.
other things to get in your life,
Right.
I meant to call that couple, and I can't remember their name to save my soul. Wonderful couple that you guys did the job for, and I thought, gosh, if I could call them, it'd be wonderful if they'd call in and say, hey, yeah, they'd cheat. Everything Stan just said is true. Their Stafford did a great service. In fact, that day I met your brother. He was there doing the measurements and stuff same time that I was there. And, of course, I was getting ready to, I think I spritzed the trunks, and we injected them.
Oh, nice.
I came back in a week. But we're going to mention to folks that 813-289-1860 will put you on the air with us locally. And I know you probably have questions for Kelly and Stafford Tree Service, or if you've got a regular plant question, we can answer that as well. I've been doing that for 40 years. So
Absolutely.
stay with us as the plant talk and real estate talk continues here on The Answer, AM 860.
Interested in having a home consult? Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at askmrgreenthumb.com. Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Got questions about perennial problems with flowers? What about issues with closing on your newest property? Call now, 813-289-1860. Toll free, 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And a big good morning to you as we continue with the Ask Mr. Greenthumb Gardening and Real Estate Show. And yes, we do some real estate too, but today we're going to specialize more on trees because, I think they're really important. And
Well, and in just mentioning the real estate topic, I mean, what's one of the first things that people think of when they go to buy that house, especially if you're their first time home
curb
buyer?
appeal.
Curb appeal. And so it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I don't know if that's occurring for you, but I mean, do you have a lot of real estate agents that you work with in relation to getting homes ready to go into market? Because the first thing that pops into my mind is a lot of times I will show up to a property and they haven't done any maintenance on any of the trees in a decade. And
Yeah. We do have a few real estate companies that come to us to
Oh, good.
get their trees ready, and then a couple guys that flip houses,
Nice.
Yeah. So
They know it's important. I mean,
right.
All right. So anybody with Remax Metro call you yet? Because I will put out the call to our brethren and sisterhood that we work with there.
I do have a lady with Remax.
Oh, nice.
Her name's Sandy Mooney.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right. Well,
yeah.
there's so many different branches of Remax, so who knows which one she's
but that sounds
working
like
with.
Sandy is enlightened, and that's important.
That's
You know?
right.
Yeah.
Well, the better agents are enlightened and know that let's head off a problem at the pass as opposed to, find the inspector goes, hey, we don't like this rubbing against the eaves or something.
Right.
You come across a property all the time. The roof seems to be leaking. There's a spot in the ceiling. The soffit isn't any good. And the lady goes, there's nothing wrong with my house. And you're going, there's nothing wrong with your house. But you got a little spot up there and no one wants to buy your house because it's a tile roof and they're afraid it's going to cost them $50,000. And
Well, and not only that, but part of the reason that a lot of people have problems with roof and soffit damage is because they didn't do the tree trimming, and you got fronds that will fall. I mean, again, a lot of properties in Florida have palm trees, and so if you have this debris that starts accumulating on the roof and it isn't removed, you are creating a well, I mean, I guess next week we can have a roofing company on and we can talk about, if you don't want to use Kelly and Stafford Tree Service, we'll meet Mr. Roofing Company because that's what your next choice. And if you think that tree trimming companies are expensive, wait till the roof company gets a hold of you because you didn't want to do the maintenance on your trees. So, that's something to think about, and I think that's important. Now, one of the things we talked a little bit about on the break that I think we should discuss now is when you're doing work for condo boards and homeowners associations, they have some particular concerns when they're having companies out there. And what might those be?
I think the main thing is when you get set up as a vendor for, they make sure that you're licensed, you're insured, and they want the minimum of $1 to $2 million on the liability, which I think a lot of homeowners forget to ask for that stuff. And when you got that guy coming out to give you the estimate, you don't know what type of business, you're dealing with at that time until they're already out there doing the work, and
Sure.
something, goes wrong, and then you find out they're not carrying liability insurance or workman's comp. And
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's super important, because we do live in kind of a litigious society, so we do have to kind of navigate these waters, because every business that's their goal, is to make money and to do it safely and to have as few claims as possible in their life of their company. And one of the ways to do that is to make sure that you're licensed, insured, and making sure that you have the best people working that are competent. And I'm sure that's the case with you guys. The other thing that I find too in the tree trimming world is people will ask, well, what kind of equipment do you have? That's a question I'll ask you. What kind of equipment are you guys using?
We've got a track lift and a bobcat,
Nice.
couple dump trucks, and
So all the things that you need to have in order to be able to handle those big projects for big condo boards. I mean, my goodness, you drive around and there are so many gated communities that are begging for your services in relation to the amount of trees that they have on property. And again, it's not until we have a major storm that comes through. I mean, I'm thinking back, what was it, 5 or 6 years ago when we had that hurricane thing come in and we had stacks and stacks and stacks of debris. Remember that? It was like, they didn't know what to do with it. And I remember driving by Drew Street one time, and they had, there was the community college there, St. Pete Community College. And out in their parking lot area, they didn't know what to put this stuff, but it was like 8 feet high of just debris. And to me, that you may feel differently, but it was like the poster boy of all of this maintenance that wasn't done over the years that should have been done.
right.
And then Mother Nature just said, well, we're going to go ahead and do the maintenance for you, and then we're going to have all this debris that we don't know what to do with.
And we've been lucky this year. I mean, everybody complains about 2020, and they're right. But in this area here, we have a relative who lives in Louisiana, where I was thinking of Randy, and he's been hit like 4 times this year with major storms that came through. He says, hey, I said, what's the main roof up there? And he goes, blue tarps. And, and he's a doer. He's one of those guys. He goes, they had like a mobile home on the property that wasn't his house, but he had it like, I think for the kids. And he said the thing just totally flattened it. Like somebody had taken a bulldozer and gone over it. And, I kept thinking, we didn't have that. We go, oh my, we had a minor bit of problem compared to what could be.
We got lucky with this last one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
I hate to say it, even this last storm that we've had no-name storms that I have felt were more dangerous. It didn't stop, the panic. I still saw people driving to to go get gas, and I saw lines out the door, and and then nowadays it's always sketchy to find toilet paper, but I have no idea why that. I understand why it happened the first time, but once we went through the toilet paper crisis of 2020, I didn't understand why. Here we are again, and it's like,
I think they would put a picture of a bunch of the politicians up, and that was enough to scare everybody, saying, "Oh, we were going to need toilet paper."
Must be maybe the election.
They're going to promise you the world and give you our page.
Yeah,
But I'm not going to get into politics. I'm just going off on in general.
Sure.
So
yeah.
I don't have a lot of people calling.
No,
me
we're
going,
equal opportunity. We find both sides to be full of what.
Yeah,
so.
I can offend both Democrats and Republicans
That's
equally as well. So.
I can agree on that.
So, but yeah, I don't know why that is either. I was a story of the day. I was like, my God, we're back to where we were. I thought we were past that.
Well, I was just kind of hoping that the human condition had learned something in the last 7 or 8 months, that maybe we just don't panic and we buy one thing, package of toilet paper, and we don't need to have a sign up that says, basically the company, Publix, Walmart, all of these companies are basically saying, hey, just one household per one purchase per household. But what they really should say is stop hoarding.
Right.
See, I saw Mikey out there, though. He had a whole cart full, and he's out there in front of the parking lot going, all right, all you people are jonesing for some more TP. Get over here. And, we're only
that accent is perfect, too.
For only $19.95, he would take care of you.
That sounds just like him.
So
If you could add a little extra New York to it, though, I think that would bring it home.
You know, in New York, we know what we're doing in New York. You people don't know what you're doing down here.
That's right.
That's a problem.
You're reading, you're writing, your arithmetic, no good down here.
So my dad was from New York, so I can pick on people, but he would talk, he was, how come you don't know nothing? I mean, up there, you know something. Down here, you don't know nothing. And I'm going, all right, yeah, okay. I had my uncles from New Jersey, and my dad is from.
So you can say that stuff when your family is legitimately
when you got
from
when you
there.
got some family up there, then you get a pass to
That's right.
take a little shot at them.
Probably don't, but I like that you think that we do.
Well, they'll probably call me later, going, "Hey, how come you talking like that? Huh?
Yeah, why we don't talk like that? What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's the pizza's good up here because of the water.
It's the water. You can't see through the water, but it's the water.
Yeah, that's right. I've heard that more than once or twice. But anyway, going back to the tree business, I think it's important for people to call you now and set up for now between now and spring. I mean, they don't have to do it immediately, but get them on your books, right, so that you can send your brother out. It looked like he was running all over when I talked to him that day. He says, well, I'm going to here, I'm going to there, I'm going to here. And he says, Kelly only has been going to 25 stops today. And,
Sometimes I have to step back and remember that he needs a little break sometimes.
Sure.
Well, it sounds like he seemed real knowledgeable, too. And that's important. And he shot the people straight. Here's, here isn't a horrible price. It's a legitimate price. Here's a real price of what it costs for us to run. Now, you've got hundreds of thousands of dollars in equipment.
Right.
I mean, so,
yeah.
It's different.
It's a pretty big buy-in. I mean, these, people that run, low, I don't know how you would do a tree business on the cheap. I just don't know how you do it because of all the equipment that they need to put the guys where they need to be. The bucket trucks, all of that stuff is so expensive. The grinding of the trees, I remember seeing years and years ago, they probably made advancements on it, but a guy had a remote control stump grinder. Yeah, and I've seen those things, and the guy goes, yeah, that thing's $50,000, and that truck over there, that's $100,000. I'm like, this guy's just telling me he's got $50,000 and $100,000, and he's pointing in two different directions, and I'm going, oh my goodness. I mean, the idea that you're going to pick up a chainsaw from Home Depot and get in your station wagon and compete, good luck with that.
Yeah, and then another thing is, paying your guys a living wage.
Right.
Yeah, I think a lot of these truck and trailer guys, they don't really take care of their employees.
Yeah, and that's a shame.
Yeah, and so then what you're dealing with is probably people you don't want up in your tree and.
Yeah, so they're disgruntled to begin with, because they're not being paid a living wage. They're not able to provide for their family in a way that is sustainable. And, so that's an excellent point, because you don't think about that, these are real people that are having real jobs that need to be provided for on a continual basis based on doing hard work.
We'll talk more about that
after
this.
We'll pay some bills, and we'll come on back. And if anybody has any tree trimming questions or anything, give us a call, 813-289-1860, or toll-free 877-969-8600.
And we're here, of course, to answer those questions. If you want to know about what's a proper cut, what's a good cut versus a sloppy cut, a bad cut. We'll talk about that when we come back. Stay with us as the Plant Talk continues right here on AM 860, The Answer.
Want to talk real estate auctions? Call James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127 or go online at aflre.com. Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Connect online at askmrgreenthumb.com. Got questions on gardening, real estate, or both? Call now, 813-289-1860. Toll free, 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And we want you to know that we're here, of course, to answer your questions. We are fortunate to have Kelly here with Stafford Tree Service who can answer if you've got a specific question about your tree. I mean, I was telling Kelly during the break, I can look at a tree real quickly and tell if it was a professional who trimmed it or not. Even though I don't trim trees with chainsaws, I know what's supposed to be done. And sometimes you'll see these great big stubs that are 2 feet. And I go, well, that shouldn't be. Or it's totally flat, and that shouldn't be. So leaving a little bit of a shoulder on the wound is what it should be.
Right.
Or close. I mean, you can have it a half inch, maybe almost inch and a half. But that's about where it ought to be. It shouldn't be, if it's a 3 foot stub, it's probably going to rot back into the tree, and you're going to have more problems down the road, right?
Right. And then if you're cutting it too close to the trunk, then obviously
Can't heal.
Yeah, can't heal.
And so that's important. I mean, and then those are little things, but any of us who are in the business for any length of time, it's one of the things that we look for. I mean, I spend most of my time either injecting trees or
counting them.
Or counting them. In eminent domain, I work in the field because, I work for tree.
Well, let's be honest. He makes me count them. So it's,
often
he's in the air-conditioned car.
Yeah, often James is counting them, but I am supervising the tree counting.
Yes, and and unlike me, the Latin name first, and the common name second, and I'm just pointing at the pretty tree and going, "Hey, Dad, this tree looks kind of tall. What kind of tree is this?"
And I say, "Put a measurement on it. Let's measure it."
That's right. Yeah. So again, Kelly, before I forget, because I'm notorious for this, if people want to get a hold of you for service, and I know they do, what's the best number to get a hold of them, or you rather?
Yeah, they can reach me at 727-27. Or I'm sorry, I'm giving you my cell. 546.
Well, that could be good too.
Do that too. So either 546-8786 or my cell, which is 278-9841, or they can reach me on the website, which is Stafford Tree Service. Or StaffordTreeSVC.com.
Nice. Again, I don't know if this is the same for you, but a lot of people, at least in the real estate world, I'll get people that will text me and say, "Hey, I'm thinking about selling in a few months. Blah blah blah. My name's John. Could you call me sometime?" And people are doing that more and more now too. So again, I just kind of divert to whatever their communication preference is, because sometimes I find that they're just not. There are people out there that, I'm using air quotes for those that can't see me, that are just not phone people. They'll text, they'll email, but they just don't really like the phone. And so I just say to myself, well, hey, they're the customer. They have the right to communicate however they best feel comfortable doing so. And the businesses out there that can adapt and improvise to their way of thinking, they're going to do better than those that, well, you have to go through and push 1 and dial 3, and then if I can't call you back, I call you back, and if I don't, I don't. So I think those businesses are going to do better over time. So that's why I mentioned that.
Well, every time I've ever called Kelly, either she answers most of the time or she gets right back to me usually and says, "Hey, boom, 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 I'm doing 10 different things here." But she always gets back to me, which is great. And I pay attention to that too, because a lot of companies, as you say, don't get back to you. And, I had a nurse supposed to come out from Baycare a month or two ago for an eye thing. Never came, never called, never anything. And I'm going,
well, it's Baycare. They, that's a company.
Well, for the most part,
that's a nonprofit.
For the most part, they're good. But, I will give them some credit. Most of the time, they're great. But
hey, they helped take care of you in your recent medical procedure. So
they did. I was happy with them, and as I say, I was. Any day you wake up and you're happy, that's a good day, right? So
exactly. So let me ask you another question. Lead time. Right now you guys probably aren't as busy as you would be during, say, come spring of 2021. But if, again, we want people to call you now so they don't have to wait until then, because, you have the availability. But let's say people, as being people, they wait until March to give you the call. And I'm not suggesting that they should. But how long could they expect to wait before you'd have the chance to get out there to see them on average?
To get out and see them, we're pretty quick about getting out there and looking and assessing the trees.
Okay.
But as far as, we usually schedule out about 4 to 8 weeks.
4 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what I wanted to get out there. So people that are, if you're on the fence about getting something like this done, keep in mind that this is pretty common. I mean, the tree trimming companies are busy. And so, again, it's not that they can't take care of you, because they will, but you've got to make sure that you build in that lead time so that you understand that it's going to take that time in order to get you on the books, to get you trimmed up and handled. So I think that's an important thing to discuss and make sure people understand, because even I wasn't sure what it was. So, and we tend to be around people more like yourself that are in the business and in the know. So, again, that's important stuff.
I agree. Or in finding out how big a tree gets. I mean, one of the reasons that I push my book, Stan DeFreitas' Complete Guide to Florida Gardening, is because I went out of my neck and said, here's how high I think the tree gets and how wide it gets. Because a lot of books I read wouldn't give you, the author wouldn't say, well, it's going to get to be 50 feet or 60 feet. And people don't know. I mean, I was talking to my cousin recently in St. Pete, and the neighbor decided to put like 4 flowering trees 2 feet from his fence.
Hmm.
Well, do you think that could be a problem? I mean, legally, you can go in and trim the stuff on your side, or you can have Stafford's Tree Service come in and trim those off for you. But remember, they're going to go back, and it's going to be an ongoing thing. I mean, even when I tell people when I inject a tree, you'll probably see my smiling face again, and it isn't a once and done forever. I mean, boars have a nasty habit of coming back.
Sure.
We were talking about cancer. Cancer has a nasty habit of coming back.
Right.
Boars come back. I mean, insects have been around longer than we have by only a few million years, and they've learned to adapt, improvise, and overcome. You hit them with something, and they go, "Oh, that's the best you got? Well, boom, we're back, and we're in business." And we don't want the tree glowing in the dark either. So I mean,
right, and that's the same thing too in the tree business too. It's just to me, it reminds me a little bit of the hair cutting business. You're going to be doing this. As long as you own the property, there's going to be maintenance that you're going to have to do, and that deferred maintenance either gets handled by Mother Nature, which puts you and your family at risk. It also, if you have a big storm, then it puts your community at risk. So that's something else to think. It's not just you and your family that you should be thinking about. It should be your community too. And so I would recommend that people really assess that. I mean, and try to determine whether or not their property, if you've got that branch that's hanging over the house that looks precarious, or a tree that's leaning in a funny direction. Why wait? I mean, that's something you should be taking a look at, maybe snap a picture off and say, "Hey, Kelly, what do you think? What do you guys, get a third-party assessment on something like this." I mean, I know that I like to sit back and be a jack of all trades, and that I can figure out, that looks fine, but maybe it isn't. And I think that sometimes you should call a professional and find out.
Or your power line goes down and you're out of power for a week because, it isn't over my roof. It's just over the main power line into my house. They'll be out to fix it tomorrow.
Well, yeah.
Well, no, they won't. It may be a week before they're out there and you're trying to survive. It
reminds me of your neighbor who had that leaning pine tree there, the Jesse and Mitchie. That thing could have easily gone towards their house and fallen on it rather than where it did. I think they got very lucky with that thing falling in the direction that it did.
Well, her mother was out there saying prayers, and that probably made the difference.
I think it did. It certainly couldn't hurt. And but that's a good example too of a situation where certain trees too do seem to be more weak-rooted than other trees. I mean, you don't see live oaks falling over at the same degree that pines do.
And be careful too, because that goes back to I was thinking of Graham.
Mm-hmm.
Graham's best friend came out to his house, northeast St. Pete. Graham was an attorney, smart guy. His guy who helped him, been a lifelong friend, had done everything. But he was near 70-ish, or probably around there at the time. Fell out of the tree, eventually died. And I know Graham felt horrible because It was his good friend. They were trying to save a few bucks. The guy goes, "I know how to do it." And I think he was in dress shoes though, working in a tree.
Well, that's the way you do, dress shoes, right?
Well, you think when you're 70 that you remember what you could do when you're 20.
Right.
And I hate to say, there's a time and a place, guys, that when you fall out of that tree at 70, you're going to be hurt worse usually than the guy who's 17.
That's true. And Kelly, before we forget again, one more time numbers on those phone numbers.
727-546-8786.
Okay.
And give it again.
And I'll give you my cell too, 727-278-9841.
All right.
And the main number again?
727-546-8786.
They always gave me that hard time when I first started in radio. Make sure you give the numbers out 3 times.
3 times.
Yep.
4 times.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And they're right.
They are right. Absolutely. Well, can you believe it? Another episode has gone on. We've done our hour together. And stay with us next week. We will do another Ask Mr. Greenthumb Real Estate Show.
Thanks for being with us. Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you.